Have you ever noticed how, as the years go by, your energy starts to feel more precious than it used to? Not necessarily less, but more valuable. When you were younger, you could spend hours worrying about what someone said, replaying conversations in your mind, or trying to smooth over disagreements. Back then, it might have seemed like part of life, something you simply had to do to keep relationships going or to keep peace in the room. But somewhere along the way, many women reach a quiet realization. Life is too short to carry every burden the world tries to hand you. And here's something beautiful about getting older that people don't talk about enough. Age gives you permission to slow down, permission to let things go, permission to protect your peace. For many women in their 60s and beyond, faith becomes even more meaningful during this season of life. You begin to see the wisdom in God's gentle reminders that your worth doesn't come from how much you accomplish, how many people you please, or how perfectly you manage every situation. Sometimes the most faithful and joyful way to live is simply to loosen your grip on the things that were never meant to weigh on your heart. In this video, we're going to talk about something that might sound surprising at first. 7 things God may actually be inviting you to become a little lazier about as you grow older. Not careless, not indifferent, but peacefully, intentionally, less invested in the things that drain your spirit. Because happiness in later life doesn't come from doing more. Very often, it comes from carrying less. Let's begin with something many women have struggled with for most of their lives: worrying about what other people think. Think back for a moment. How many times did you hesitate to speak your mind because you were afraid someone might judge you? Maybe you chose certain clothes, certain words, or certain decisions simply because you didn't want anyone to disapprove. Many women were raised to be agreeable, to keep everyone comfortable, to avoid rocking the boat. And while kindness and consideration are beautiful qualities, constantly measuring yourself through other people's opinions can become exhausting. The truth is, no matter what you do in life, someone will always have something to say. Someone may think you're too quiet. Another may think you're too outspoken. Someone might say you're too traditional. Someone else may say you're not traditional enough. If you spend your life trying to satisfy every voice around you, you'll eventually lose sight of your own. That's why one of the greatest freedoms many women discover in their later years is this simple shift, caring less about outside approval. And when we say lazy about it, we mean choosing not to spend your emotional energy there anymore. God never asked you to live according to the endless expectations of other people. Your value was never determined by neighborhood gossip, social approval, or someone else's opinion. Your worth was already established long before anyone formed a judgment about you. Imagine the peace that comes from letting go of that constant pressure. No more replaying conversations in your mind before bed. No more wondering if someone misunderstood you. No more bending your personality to fit every room you walk into. Instead, you begin to live more honestly, more gently, more like the woman God created you to be. And the funny thing is, when you stop trying so hard to be liked by everyone, the relationships that truly matter actually grow stronger. The people who genuinely love you don't need you to perform or pretend. They appreciate your authenticity. Now there's another area where a little laziness can bring incredible peace into your life: arguments and drama. At some point in life, many people realize that not every disagreement needs to become a battle. Maybe you remember a time when you felt compelled to prove your point, to make sure someone understood why you were right. Maybe it was during a family discussion, a conversation with friends, or even something small that suddenly became much bigger than it needed to be. But as the years pass, something interesting happens. Wisdom begins to whisper that winning every argument isn't nearly as important as protecting your peace. Some people simply don't want to understand another perspective. They hold on to their opinions tightly, sometimes without even realizing it, and no matter how carefully you explain yourself, their view remains the same. When that happens, continuing to argue only drains your spirit. There's a quiet strength in choosing not to engage. Picture a calm lake on a still morning. If someone throws a stone into the water, ripples spread across the surface. But if the lake stays still, those ripples eventually fade away. You can be like that lake. You don't have to respond to every critical comment. You don't have to correct every misunderstanding. You don't have to defend yourself in every uncomfortable conversation. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply a gentle smile and silence. That doesn't mean you never speak your truth. Of course you do. But you begin to choose your moments carefully. You ask yourself a simple question before stepping into a disagreement. Is this worth my peace? If the answer is no, you quietly step away. And there's something incredibly freeing about that choice. You begin to realize how many conflicts in life were never yours to carry in the first place. Another area where many women have spent years pouring out their energy is trying to fix other people's problems. If you've been a mother, a sister, a wife, or a caretaker, chances are you've spent decades helping others navigate their struggles, offering advice, providing comfort, trying to make things better whenever someone you loved was hurting. That instinct comes from a beautiful place: compassion, love, responsibility. But there comes a time when wisdom gently reminds you that every person has their own journey to walk. You can guide, you can support, you can pray for them, but you cannot live their life for them. Sometimes, when we rush to solve every problem for the people around us, we accidentally take away the very lessons they need to grow. Think about a butterfly struggling to emerge from its cocoon. That struggle is what strengthens its wings. If someone tried to open the cocoon for it, the butterfly might never develop the strength it needs to fly. Life works in much the same way. Your children, your friends, your loved ones all have experiences they must go through to develop their own resilience and wisdom. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It simply means you stop carrying burdens that don't belong to you. You can listen with kindness, offer encouragement, share your perspective when it's welcomed, but you no longer feel responsible for fixing every situation. There is great peace in recognizing that God is working in other people's lives too. You don't have to manage everything. You don't have to rescue everyone. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back, trust the process, and allow others to find their own strength. And when you release that weight from your shoulders, you may feel a surprising lightness begin to settle into your days. A kind of freedom that many women never gave themselves permission to experience when they were younger. And that gentle shift in how you spend your emotional energy opens the door for another important realization about life as we grow older. Because once you begin letting go of the need to manage everyone else's thoughts, conflicts, and problems, something remarkable starts to happen inside your heart. The noise of life begins to quiet down. The constant pressure to control everything fades just a little. And in that quiet space, many women start noticing something they hadn't felt in years: peace. But there's another habit that quietly steals that peace from so many good-hearted women, especially those who have spent their lives caring deeply about doing things the right way: chasing perfection. For decades, many women carried the belief that everything had to be just right. The house had to look perfect before guests arrived. Holidays had to be planned flawlessly. Meals had to be cooked just the right way. Mistakes felt like something to hide or regret. And if something went wrong, if a decision didn't turn out the way you hoped, or a moment from the past came back to mind, you might have found yourself replaying it again and again. If only I had said this instead. If only I had made a different choice. If only things had turned out differently. Regret can be a heavy companion if we allow it to sit beside us for too long. But here's a gentle truth many people discover later in life. Perfection was never the goal God had for you. Life isn't meant to be flawless. It's meant to be lived. Every choice you made, every mistake, every unexpected turn, it all became part of the person you are today. The strength you carry, the wisdom you've gained, the compassion you show others. Those qualities often grew from the very experiences you once wished had never happened. Think about the people you admire most. Are they perfect? Probably not. More often, the most inspiring people are the ones who walked through difficulties, learned from them, and kept going with grace. And if you look closely at your own life, you'll likely see that same story written across your years. Maybe there were times when you doubted yourself, moments when life didn't follow the plan you once imagined, seasons where things felt uncertain or painful. Yet here you are, still standing, still growing, still capable of joy. Regret tries to keep you tied to yesterday, but faith gently reminds you that God's grace meets you right here in the present moment. So one of the most freeing things you can become a little lazy about in this season of life is striving for perfection. Your home doesn't need to look like a magazine. Your past doesn't need to be rewritten. Your life doesn't need to be flawless to be meaningful. Sometimes the most beautiful moments happen when we allow things to be simple and imperfect. A slightly messy kitchen filled with laughter during a family visit, a quiet afternoon reading by the window, a conversation with a friend that doesn't follow any script. These moments aren't perfect. They're real, and often, they're the ones that stay in our hearts the longest. Alongside letting go of perfection, many women also discover another powerful shift as they grow older. They begin to feel less attached to accumulating things. When you're younger, life often feels like a process of building and gathering. A bigger home, more furniture, more decorations, more clothes for every occasion. At the time, it can feel exciting, like each new possession is adding something valuable to your life. But after many years, a different realization begins to take shape. Sometimes the things we own quietly start owning us. Closets fill up, drawers overflow, garages become crowded with items we rarely use, and suddenly, the very things that were supposed to bring comfort become little sources of stress. You might spend time organizing them, cleaning them, storing them, wondering what to do with them. That's when many people reach a beautiful turning point. They begin choosing simplicity, not because they have to, but because they want to feel lighter. Imagine walking through your home and only seeing the things that truly matter. Objects that carry meaning, memories, or real usefulness. Everything else gently released into the world where someone else might benefit from it. It's amazing how much freedom can come from letting go. Some women start giving items to their children or grandchildren. Others donate clothes, books, or household items to people who truly need them. And with each box that leaves the house, something inside the heart also feels lighter. Suddenly there is more space, not just in your home, but in your mind. Less clutter to manage, less pressure to maintain things that no longer serve you, and more room for what truly brings joy, time with loved ones, quiet mornings with coffee and prayer, walks outside on a sunny afternoon. laughter with friends, conversations that stretch longer because you're no longer rushing to tidy something or organize another shelf. When you look back at life someday, you won't remember how many items filled your closets. You'll remember the people who filled your days. And that realization naturally leads into another gentle shift that can bring incredible peace in later life. Learning to stop trying to please everyone. Many women were raised with the belief that being good meant putting everyone else first, making sure others were comfortable, saying yes when someone needed help, avoiding disappointment in the people around them. For years, sometimes decades, that pattern can feel like second nature. You agree to things even when you're tired. You rearrange your schedule to meet someone else's needs. You hold back your own preferences to avoid conflict. But as time passes, many women reach a quiet understanding. Constantly trying to make everyone happy is an impossible task. No matter how much you give, someone may still feel dissatisfied. No matter how carefully you try to meet expectations, someone may still wish you had done things differently. And if you continue trying to satisfy every voice around you, your own needs slowly disappear. That's why one of the most liberating changes that comes with age is learning that it's okay to say no, not with anger, not with guilt, but with calm honesty. You begin to listen to your own energy, to your own heart. If you need rest, you rest. If you want quiet time, you take it. If something doesn't feel right for you anymore, you gently decline. And something surprising happens when you start living this way. The people who truly love you understand. They respect your boundaries. They appreciate your honesty. And your relationships often grow healthier because they are built on truth rather than obligation. Of course, not everyone will respond perfectly at first. Some people may be used to the old version of you, the one who always said yes. But as you continue living with quiet confidence, most people eventually adjust. And the peace you gain from honoring your own needs becomes far more valuable than the temporary approval you once chased. It's a beautiful realization that many women discover only after many years of giving so much of themselves to others. You are allowed to care for your own well-being too. And as you continue stepping into that freedom, another gentle shift begins to unfold in how you experience your days. Because once you stop trying to carry everyone else's expectations, something else begins to change quietly inside your daily life. Your pace starts to slow down, not in a negative way, but in a way that feels calmer, more intentional. For many years, life may have felt like a long race. There were schedules to keep, responsibilities to meet, goals to reach. You were moving from one task to the next, often without pausing long enough to simply enjoy the moment you were in. Many women spent decades caring for families, working hard, supporting others, and making sure everything ran smoothly. There were school schedules, work deadlines, household responsibilities, and countless little details that needed attention. During those years, rushing often felt necessary. But something beautiful happens as life enters a quieter season. You begin to realize that not everything needs to be hurried anymore. In fact, one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself in your later years is becoming a little lazy about rushing through life. Think about how often people hurry past simple moments without even noticing them. A warm cup of coffee in the morning becomes just another item on the to-do list. A walk outside becomes exercise rather than an experience. A conversation with a loved one becomes something squeezed between other obligations. But when you slow down, those same moments begin to feel different. That cup of coffee becomes something you actually taste and enjoy. The warmth of the mug in your hands, the quiet of the morning, the gentle light coming through the window. A walk outside becomes a chance to feel the breeze, notice the birds, and appreciate the world around you. A conversation with a friend becomes deeper because you're truly listening rather than thinking about the next thing you have to do. Many women discover that slowing down doesn't make life smaller. It actually makes life richer. You begin to notice details that once slipped by unnoticed. The color of the sky in the early evening, the laughter of a grandchild, the comforting rhythm of an ordinary day, and perhaps most importantly, you start realizing that your worth has never been measured by how busy you are. For so many years, society told you that productivity defined value, that staying busy meant you were doing life correctly. But God never designed life to be lived in constant exhaustion. Sometimes the most meaningful moments come when we simply sit still. Maybe it's reading a book in a quiet room. Maybe it's sitting on the porch as the sun sets. Maybe it's spending a peaceful afternoon with someone you love. These quiet spaces are not wasted time. They are often the places where gratitude grows. And when you allow yourself to move through life at a gentler pace, you start experiencing something else many people struggle with for years: freedom from constant worry about the future. It's natural, especially as we grow older, for certain questions to appear in our thoughts. You might wonder about your health, your finances, or the well-being of the people you love. Those concerns are human. They come from caring deeply about life, but worry can easily become a habit that quietly steals the joy from today. Many people spend precious hours imagining problems that may never happen. They replay what-if scenarios in their minds, hoping that thinking about them long enough will somehow provide control. Yet worry rarely gives us control. More often, it simply drains our peace. Faith gently invites us to approach the future differently. Instead of trying to predict every possibility, we learn to trust that the same strength that carried us through the past will carry us through whatever lies ahead. Think about all the challenges you have already faced throughout your life. Difficult seasons, unexpected turns, moments when you weren't sure how things would work out. And yet, step by step, you made it through those times. That doesn't mean life was always easy, but it does mean that you have already proven something important to yourself. You are stronger than you sometimes remember. When worry about the future appears, it can help to gently bring your attention back to the present moment. Right now, in this very moment, what is actually happening? Perhaps you're sitting comfortably, listening to this message. Maybe the sun is shining through the window. Maybe you can hear the quiet sounds of your home around you. Those small details remind us that life is happening right here, not in tomorrow's possibilities, not in yesterday's regrets, right here. When we learn to rest in that present moment, worry gradually loosens its grip. You begin to understand that the future doesn't need to be solved today. It will unfold one day at a time, just as it always has. And the more you allow yourself to live with that trust, the lighter your heart becomes. When you step back and look at everything we've talked about together, you may notice a simple pattern. Happiness in later life often comes not from adding more effort, but from releasing unnecessary burdens. Becoming a little lazy about worrying what others think frees you to live more honestly. Becoming lazy about arguments protects your peace. Becoming lazy about fixing everyone's problems allows others to grow while giving your own heart room to rest. Letting go of perfection and regret frees you from the past. Releasing unnecessary possessions lightens your life. Stopping the habit of pleasing everyone allows you to honor your own needs. And slowing down your pace helps you experience the beauty of each moment as it arrives. None of these changes require dramatic transformations. They're gentle shifts, small decisions made day by day. A quiet choice not to engage in an argument, a decision to donate things you no longer need, a moment of honesty when someone asks you to do something that doesn't feel right for you, a peaceful pause during your morning coffee. These small choices gradually build a life that feels lighter, calmer, and more joyful. If you've made it this far in the video, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these changes speaks to your heart the most right now? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Your experiences might encourage someone else who's walking a similar path. And if this message brought you comfort or inspiration, please take a moment to like the video. It helps more people discover these conversations. Don't forget to subscribe to Elderly Faith Journey for more reflections, encouragement, and practical wisdom for living well in every season of life. Remember this: growing older is not something to fear. It's a privilege many people never receive. Each year brings another opportunity to release what no longer serves you and to embrace the peace that has been waiting for you all along. So move gently through your days, protect your energy, trust that you are exactly where you need to be, and may this next chapter of your life be filled with quiet joy, deep faith, and a heart that feels lighter with every passing year. Here's to living well, living peacefully, and discovering that sometimes the happiest life begins when we finally allow ourselves to carry less.